what to do with black to move in Yusupov Dolmatov Weigandse 1991. To exchange the rook g8 or to preserve it. What did Dolmatov play? The guideline is a rook fighting against minor pieces or one minor piece welcomes exchanges. So white, with his two rooks against rook and bishop, wants to exchange a pair of rook according to this guideline. The reason is white's rooks are redundant in a way. One rook can do exactly the same what the other can as well, and the more is exchanged, usually the more powerful rook becomes, as a rook has as many move possibilities from any square of the board. On an open free board, a rook a1 has as many moves as a rook on e5 as on any square. And so the freer the board is, the better for a rook. And here, of course, black's rook is active and compensates the weakness, the color blindness of the bishop. So the rook must be preserved. This is really important. White wants to exchange a pair of rook and black doesn't. Because black's pieces are completely different, not like the two white rooks. The rook is a completely different piece than the bishop. It compensates its color blindness. It is a strong counter-attacking unit, and black will not fall into Zugzwang here. For example, like rook g5, black could even go for the direct counter-attack. And the resulting rook endgame would be a draw, as white's king is not playing and black's rook is active. This is a draw as given by Artur Yusupov in his analysis. So after rook b8, it's more or less clearly drawn. In the game, nothing special happened. Okay, but now black can put his bishop to g3. This closes the g file, and now it is obviously completely drawn, as Zugzwang is no weapon here. Black's rook always has moves, of course. While rook takes g2 would be a losing mistake. This is the reason why I chose just this position. Okay, now there are many lines. I just want to show one short main line, but black loses in all cases, as the sharp endgame weapon Zugzwang can be used. Rook e3, taking away the e1 square, rook e1, and finally the Zugzwang position has been reached. Black's bishop has no moves. The king, if the king moves, then e7 wins, and if b3, then rook b2 takes b3, and then the rook will invade sooner or later on the b file or g file. And here, of course, black would deeply regret the rook exchange. Okay, so a rook fighting against one or two or three minor pieces welcomes exchanges. But of course the main source of exceptions to this guideline is the fact when the side with the two rooks is the attacker, and then the guideline says the attacker doesn't want to exchange attacking potential. Then we have a direct collision of two guidelines. One says, okay, don't exchange, and the other says exchange. Such a direct collision of guidelines is always an indication that you should be very careful, study the concrete characteristics of the given position, and then decide what is correct, to exchange the rook or not to exchange the rook. Okay, but here there was no such problem, of course. Here's a typical case for the guideline. White wants to exchange and would be winning after a rook exchange due to the sharp endgame weapon Zugzwang. And black doesn't want to exchange the rook, and then the position is a draw, as black has an ironclad fortress thanks to his